Okay, as you can see, I'm going to get ready to cut things out here. And with my superior tracing skills, yes, this is a wonderful job. What I just try to do is basically do a rough outline, so when I take everything off here to go cut it, I actually kind of remember how I laid things out. I also took some pictures just to kind of give me a rough idea again how I like things, and what I'm just trying to do here is shorten this thing down, because as you can see, this is a long piece. So if I had left all the, you could sit there and say, well, why not use all the wood? That's still a huge piece of terrain, even broken up in two pieces. So I'm trimming it down here, just trying to cut back spots where, I don't need all of that. And then the idea here is, this is then the split right along here, so that you can then make it two pieces. And then the idea here is this can kind of act right here. It's a little bit of a hinge piece, so you can split this and break it up so it doesn't have to be wedged together. You can separate it a little bit, put it together, and just give it some different angles, and it'll play differently as you want. Or you can spread them apart, leave a bigger gap in the middle if you want. So this, and then just here, this will be much more tilted up. And so what I'm going to go do is go bust out the jigsaw and start cutting all this stuff out. And I will spare you guys from that, because it's going to be a ton of noise and a ton of dust all over the place. So more to come. Okay, as you can see, I've got the base cut out here, and no, this isn't a dead body traced on it. Again, this is just the trace out from the pieces that I'd laid out. So what you can kind of see here is how I cut it is, and this allows it to separate, so you kind of get an idea. So you can then place this, and move this around. So if you wanted it kind of like that, and you can see you can have the, you can position this thing around and give it different looks and angles, things like that. You can spread them out even more. You could only use one piece if you wanted to. So just the idea of again, making it a little bit more flexible, and just given the size of the sheer size of the piece, this will make it easier to store, but it just gives you just some general, just again, more flexibility to play the terrain piece, not just a fixed static layout. So that's always one of the challenges, I think, with some of these things when you do a big, especially when you do a big piece. If you look about this, this thing's almost, I didn't even put a tape measure on it, but I'll bet you this thing has probably got to be at least 18, if not 20 inches totally across. That's almost a, one half, that'll fill up a good portion of your deployment zone just if you're to stick it in there. But you can make it as a big centerpiece. You could split it out. And again, just it gives it some variety that you can do, and it's not just one fixed piece. So that, and then here's the other thing I've been working on. Pardon me for the jiggle cam, is I've been going through here and starting to try to detail up the piece. So what I've done is taken the head here and started out in broken wires and pipes and tubes and stuff like that, and then inside of this I'm going to add a bulkhead door, so it'll look like it kind of snapped off at that. And then I've been doing the same thing to the main chassis. So again, more pipe, tubing, wires, and then I added these pieces again for the guns. It kind of looks like a little snapped off. I got to try to figure out if I can put some like some texture here to make it look like it's more torn. This is too clean of a piece at that point. So, and again, like the center component, the other arm, I may just use some hot glue or something like that to make this look like it's kind of torn up and stuff. So, and then I did a little bit more detail again. Did the same thing here with these leg joints. Pardon, that's just and that's just wire cut up, glued in there. And that'll just give it that extra little bit. And I'm going to add some more, probably dig through my bits box and add some Aquillas and some other things like that, and try to figure out if I can come up with like some void shield generators for the top of it. And then what I want to do here is on the back, I'm going to try to see if I can figure out if I can build some quick vents. So, because that's usually what the back here are, some big vents for the engines. And then see if I can come up with some just some simple details, just to give it a little bit more depth, because this thing, as it is, just the stage that it was built in, it's pretty monolithic. So I mean, as you can see here, it's just some flat. There's not a ton of angles to it. So the idea will be just try to give it some, kind of some bits and bobs just to make it look like it was a working piece. I haven't quite figured out yet if I'm going to tear some holes in this, because this is metal. So one, just tearing some holes in it are not going to be easy, and then most likely going to be left with a lot of sharp points. So I'm not sure if that'll end up being done. I may just end up leaving it intact and just looking at it like it's kind of more torn apart. So my next bit here is going to be figuring out how I place this on the board and prop this up so it looks like it's nosed in, and start figuring out. I just got to get the order of execution. So it's the balance of doing enough detail on here while the pieces are still easy to work with, because once I mount it to the board, this thing's going to become pretty unwieldy pretty fast, which makes it difficult to work on. So like I said, try to figure out how I'm going to do that. Once I get that figured out, I'll probably then do that as a part 3 update. So I'll close this one off. So there we go. Okay, just wanted to do a little more detailed shot here so you can see some of the details that I've done. So this is the cockpit section. So what I've done here is, this is just some Cat5 cabling that I have left over. Cut it up, took the wires, some hot glue, put it around the perimeter of it, and then this is just some plastic card, a couple pieces of plastic card, making it a door. And then what I'm going to try to do is probably put a couple more little detail pieces here in the center, and just to kind of give it an idea of some of the flavor that it'll have. What I'm also thinking of doing is even putting a couple more pieces maybe along the side here to make it more look like some torn metal. But again, the idea is this is a scratch build that was going on, and not to go too crazy overboard here, because then I can literally spend my time like I'm rebuilding the actual model when it's really just supposed to be a piece of terrain. So that'll be the whole balance of what I get out of it. But I'm going to do the same thing here, put it in the main chassis piece. It'll be a couple doors, and it just partially because it's foam, so I want to try to cover that up as much as I possibly can. So there we go. What I'm going to probably have to do also, I just realized this, because a lot of this is foam still, I'm going to have to come up with way to primer this. So I haven't quite figured that out. If I use an aerosol, I'm afraid it's just going to eat through all of this. So I may have to go get some latex paint and put it through my my air compressor house paint sprayer that I have. So we'll have to figure that out. I have to thin it out and see if I can play with the way it sprays and stuff like that. And if that works, and I can get a good base coat with some basic latex primer, which may not be a bad idea given how this piece is, that may actually work out fairly well. So that may be my job for the week, is to figure out how I'm going to base coat this. So more to come.